gloves on here. Again, when we do have any updates for you guys and other matches that do take place, we will, of course, let you know. But our feature match right now is Anderson. It's Keating. And Anderson, because he's #1 overall seed, he gets to play first, which is big for his deck, of course. Big for any Legacy deck, but certainly big for his deck.
Yep.
Mox Diamond, Rashad and Port discarding Verdant Catacombs is how Chris Anderson's going to start his quarterfinals. We'll head back Keating's way. He also has Mox Diamond in his deck, so he can have some explosive starts as well. There's Mox Diamond for him. He'll discard a Taiga. Let's see what land Tom wants to play. You see he's got Liliana in his hand, but that card not great in this matchup. Might actually be one of the first ones to go with sideboarding.
Yep. The plussing in this kind of matchup, Anderson's got dead weight in his hand, plus he's got loam to protect his hand. The minus affected sorcery speed is worth very little.
Wasteland going to go after the Port. Now we're going to head back over to Anderson, who will draw a card. Looks like Verdant Catacombs was the draw. Keating going to try to choke the mana a little bit here. Anderson going to play a Wasteland, and he'll just pass the turn back. Keating will take a draw. He'll play a Windswept Heath. He's going to fall down to 19 as he searches up a land. And it'll be a forest that he searches for. And now we'll see what comes next here. Abrupt Decay. Interesting.
Sure.
Maybe a little battle over the Mox Diamonds and the acceleration in the matchup.
Not a whole lot else to do for Keating here with the Abrupt Decay in the matchup, and Anderson's draw a little bit on the slow side. Might as well slow it down even further.
Anderson does have another Mox Diamond in his hand that he has not played yet. So for now, he's going to play a Thespian Stage. Pass the turn back. I think he's trying to surprise him.
Well, I believe he has Mox plus Dark Depths plus another land. So next turn, assuming all goes to plan here, gets through this turn, gets through next turn.
I kind of like the slow roll a little bit here. Going to try to catch Keating off guard a little bit with his ability to make a 20/20. There's a Wasteland. And now here's Green Sun Zenith.
And this is a sigh of relief here for Chris, because if Keating had Knight of the Reliquary, things get a lot more complicated. With Knight of the Reliquary, he can access either Caracas or Maze of Ith, both of which are solid answers to Merit Lage token. But Scavenging Ooze, not a big deal.
We're going to head it back Anderson's way. He'll draw a card. Punishing Fire. Nice clean answer there to the Ooze. Looks like Chris is going to play a Wasteland to start. Though a little unsure which land he wants to play at this point. Looks like he's going to go with Verdant Catacombs. He'll be discarding that, to Mox Diamond. Punishing Fire. Take care of the Ooze. I think you might see him use Wasteland to take care of the other Wasteland there. Wasteland's his land for the turn. Take care of that.
This is a somewhat risky line of play if Anderson's down to one card in hand. If Keating can play a land and Liliana the Veil, Chris's hand goes to nothing.
Yep. And he did peel Bayou this turn. So my concern was if Tom had another black source. And now he does. And so now here's Liliana. And this is a problem now. Now that's going to go up. Both players are going to have to discard. And Chris is going to lose Dark Depths. Not sure what Tom is going to lose. We'll find out soon enough. It'll be Maze of Ith. So now Chris will take a draw. It's a basic forest. And given the Liliana's on the battlefield, he's just got to play whatever he draws.
Yeah. Nothing to be gained by holding anything back.
He'll copy Wasteland with a Thespian stage, use that to take care of the Bayou. Pass the turn back. There's life from Malome.
I was about to say,
wow.
Feels like the first person who get to Loam here has a pretty big edge.
Yep. So a couple of Wastelands are going to come back here for Tom Keating, along with a Windswept Teeth. And now Keating is going to go after the Thespian stage. And now Chris is in real bad shape.
Yes. I think Chris took a calculated risk here playing around, you know, a Caracas or possibly Maze of Ith, but mostly Caracas being available. And instead has walked into Liliana the Veil and now is in serious trouble.
The draw for the turn, not a particularly good one. We're going to head back over to Anderson. Excuse me, we'll head back over to Keating. And now Keating actually does have Caracas in hand. So 2020 is basically covered. Up to 6 goes Liliana. Both players are going to have to discard. Mox Diamond for Chris. Grove of the Burnwell is there for Tom. There's a Wasteland for Tom as well.
Chris is very close to locked at this point.
Yep.
If he puts a non-basic land to play, Keating can take care of it with Wasteland. If he tries to hold something back in his hand, it's discard to Liliana. If Anderson's ever able to amass enough permanents on the board to play through these things, Keating can ultimate the Liliana and shrink his board down. I don't know if there's a route out of here from here.
And also Loam works its way into the equation too for Keating in case anything kind of goes wrong.
Exactly, and he's got the Caracas for good measure. I mean, I think everything is just covered at this point.
The walls did cave in fast, didn't they?
Yes. It felt like after the game got to this point, Keating had a slight edge because of Liliana being in play, but it felt like first person to get to Loam would probably win. Keating got to it first, and you can see the advantage this represents.
There's Caracas. Liliana going to go up. Discard Mox Diamond. Pass the turn back. Chris will draw. Again, I'm not quite sure what the outs are here. Especially Liliana at 7. It can happily ultimate.
Yes.
Still be out there.
I mean, at this point, Liliana ultimate is Stone Rain. I think Keating will probably just lay back a little bit.
Keating going to take a draw step. Curious to see when he's going to dredge again. Take a look at that Liliana ultimate. Going to split the permanents up. Chris gets to keep one of these. There we go. Mox Diamond down. And there's the clock. Not sure there's any coming back now. You know, maybe it was the lack of a clock that maybe gave Chris a shot here. But now Knight is enormous. Here's crop rotation. I'm not sure what this can find.
He can crop rotate into Tabernacle and hope that Keating doesn't upkeep.
Okay, so that's one. This is a different out, which is get Grove, bring back Punishing Fire, hope to peel land, kill Liliana.
Okay.
It's a small shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's still tough because Keating gets to go untap, dredge Loam, Wasteland you, maybe Wasteland you a second time with Knight, depending on what the land is. It's something.
Quick update here for you guys as Chris is going to draw a card. It's a Grove. He's going to kill Liliana, pass the turn back. Caleb Sheridan win game number 1 here over Ryan Frainer. Storm up a game over Grixis Delver in our 3 versus 6 match. And right now, Max Williams with Elves up a game here over Ross Merriam playing Storm. Maybe a little bit of surprise there.
Pretty big upset.
We're back on Tom Keating's turn.
And the shape of this bracket looks a lot different if Elves is the winner there in the top 8 instead of Ross.
Chris has already beaten Max Williams in this tournament. Hasn't played against Tom Keating yet, though. Here comes the knight.
I feel like Keating's got some tools for this kind of matchup.
I think so. Here's life in the loam. And if you're Chris here, you know, one thing I do like is you just have to make him play it out.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he doesn't dredge loam or something. You know, maybe there's a mistake to be made. I think it's pretty unlikely, given how many times we've watched Tom play on camera so far this weekend, but stranger things have happened.
In theory, you are always drawing to tabernacle.
Yep. It's always an out.
It's always an out, potentially.
Yep. However, not an out there for Chris Anderson, as Tom Keating's going to win game number 1 over Chris Anderson, punishing Obzon up a game over Lance. As we turn our attention to the sideboard, we'll get our eyes on what these two players are working with. And we are going to start with Chris Anderson. He's got that Molten Vortex, 4 Crows and Grips, 4 Sphere of Resistance, a Bajuka Bog of Caracas, 2 Chalice of the Void, a Boil, and a Beseja who shelters all.
On the face of it, I want none of these cards except for the Bajuka Bog. That's the only real thing I'm interested in here. Because of Leyline of the Void, it's possible Chris feels he'll need to bring in some copies of Crows and Grip to get it off the table. But in terms of what Keating presents in his main deck 60, only Bajuka Bog interests me.
And on the other side, you do mention those Leyline of the Void. There are 3 of those. 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Thaya, Garden of Thraben, a Containment Priest, neither Sworn Canonist, a Reclamation Sage, Golgari Charm, Toxic Deluge, Engineered Plague, a Garruk Relentless, and a Maelstrom Pulse.
I like the ley lines a lot. I think Maelstrom Pulse is okay to bring in, probably better than some of the other creature removal, but this is going to be pretty light sideboarding as well, I believe. The Reclamation Sage is okay. It can tag Mox, it can tag Exploration, but Keating does not have a lot to bring to the table, with the exception of the ley lines, which can be very good against a percentage of Chris's hands.
Well, we've talked so much about that Season 4 leaderboard in preparation for the Players' Championship and those players that are chasing the at-large bids, as well as that Season 4 championship. So when you take a look at Jonathan Morowski, and we'll get this cleaned up here for you guys a little bit, you see 269 Open Series points there for him. He's going to likely be our Season 4 champion. For Nance, for Fabiano, for Lisette, for Anderson, for Brixgun, for Merriam, especially for Ross, make that 237 to 247. That's a huge change.
And he goes from 8th to 4th. He actually passes Rudy, Todd, Joe, and Gerard. Now, some of these other players have also gotten points this weekend, so it's not quite that clean, but 10's a huge boost. He would really like to get through this quarterfinal matchup, though.
Now, if we take a look at page number 2, that's where you're going to find Eric Hawkins. That's where you're going to find Tom Ross. Tom had a tough weekend here with Infect. You expected a little bit better performance from him, given his pedigree with that deck. Logan Mize and Chris Anderson make that 208 to 218. You can still see he's got some ground to make up, so winning this match, a big deal.
Yes, and then, I still think the matchup is solid here for Anderson, but I did not like the path he chose there game 1. I think there was a pretty good route for him to go straight for Merit Lage. He would have risked Caracas. That would have been a huge risk there. But I think Liliana of the Veil was probably a little bit more likely, and that was how that game ended up.
So for Chris Anderson, currently down a game right now in what is a very, very important matchup for him. So Chris already ready to go. Keating taking a look at the deck list, a little bit of sideboard action here. He'll shuffle and present in just a moment. And if we have time, and I have to imagine that we will, Sam Raucus versus Christopher Stitson, that's our backup match in the Miracles Mirror. Again, Raucus, one of the fastest Miracles players on the Open Series circuit, already has a win at the Open Series in Syracuse last year with Miracles. He didn't waste any time. He had places to be.
Yes. Hoping for a repeat performance.
About his victory, right?
Yeah,
about his victory.
Yeah.
Not about how much time it takes, about his victory. That's
yeah.
what I thought. Because if we had a green-white devotion mirror for you, you'd be in.
Yeah, I would be.
Come and hang out for a while.
I had to call up the folks, tell them dinner's canceled. Talk to my niece on the phone, say sorry, won't be able to make it, you know.
Another Master of the Unseen trigger. Can't really do much about it.
Tough call to make, you know.
Anderson will be on the play here. His opener was a pretty good one last game. A little bit of explosiveness with that Mox Diamond. Nothing too crazy, though.
No loam. It was a bit of a dead-end hand besides his path to Merit Lage.
Yeah.
Nothing else really going on.
Anderson will take a look at his opening hand. He'll be on the play here. Looks like he's going to keep. Keating will not. He'll send it back. So he'll take a look at 6 cards here. We've seen Chris quite a bit here this weekend. It's been a pretty nice one here for number 12 on our Season 4 leaderboard. You can add another Open Series top 8 there. Number 17. One of the most accomplished players in the Open Series at such a young age of 26. One invitational top 8 earlier this year as well. 2015 has been a nice year for Chris. He's only got that one win on the Open Series a couple of years ago with the Tezzeret deck and Legacy. And number 2, as far as an Open Series win, would be real nice right now.
A couple finalist appearances, including most notably against Andrew Boswell earlier this year, one of our best matches of the year.
And now he's behind a little bit as Keating is taking a mulligan. To note, this is Anderson's 6th Open top 8 this year. Very impressive stuff. His win was in St. Louis 2013, a couple of years ago with that Tezzeret deck. We've got some very accomplished players here in the top 8. Ross Merriam, his top 8, his 15th, as Keating will take another mulligan. For Caleb Scherer, only his 2nd Open Series top 8, but 2 Legacy Premier IQ wins this year as well. I mean, he knows how to storm.
Yes, we've seen him play the deck in Modern. We've seen him play the deck in Legacy, even though between the 2 formats, the deck looks quite a bit different. It's not just, Modern Storm is not just a powered down Legacy Storm, it's an entirely different deck. The mechanics are entirely different, the interactions are entirely different. I think the Modern version is actually more challenging to play.
I think so. You don't get the benefit of good cantrips and discard.
Well, I think going off with Goblin, Electromancer, and Pyromancer's Ascension is just a more complicated set of lines of play than just brute forcing with Dark Ritual and
Ad nauseam.
Yeah. At this point, I feel like I could play Legacy Storm just fine. I do not trust in my abilities to play Modern Storm.
Looks like Keating's going to keep 5. Now the question is he mulliganing aggressively for Leyline of the Void? I suppose we'll find out here in just a second.
He might be. I mean, I think it's the best card in his deck post-board.
Looks like he's going to leave it on top. No action to begin the game. Chris Anderson will start by sacrificing a Verdant Catacombs. He's down to 19. There's a Taiga. We'll see where Chris goes after that. Mox Diamond. Discard the basic forest. Lifeline. Great start.
All right, this is a draw.
Yeah, great start.
This is a great start here. And Keating's deck is very vulnerable to Wasteland Lock. I think he's only got 1 basic in the list.
Yeah,
so
1 basic forest.
If Anderson can just loam into Wasteland, it might be very challenging for Keating to get off the ground, especially on 5 cards.
He's got a Mox Diamond as well.
4 cards.
Yeah. There's Verdant Catacombs. Now we're going to head back Chris's way. He'll dredge loam. Maybe. Grove of the Burn Willows is 1. Thespian Stage is 2. Taiga is 3. Loam might be drawing 3 cards here. He's also got a copy of Tranquil Thicket in hand, and we can't ignore that gamble either.
Yeah, this is just a great hand. I mean, he can burn through his deck into the graveyard pretty fast with Loam plus Tranquil Thicket. He's got a gamble, so if he finds Thespian Stage and or Dark Depths, it's fine for him to find the other part of the combo. Even if that gets taken with the gamble, he can always loam it back. This is an explosive opening, a lot of powerful lines of play afforded to Anderson.
He's going to start by playing the basic forest that he got back from Loam. Maybe. Looks like he'll just start by casting Loam. So he's going to get these 3 lands back. We'll see what land he actually wants to play. He'll go with basic forest. Now kick the turn back. Tranquil Thicket at the ready as we head over to Keating. Remember, Keating on a mulligan to 4 here.
Well, 5 and a Mox Diamond.
Sure. Excuse me. Verdant Catacombs will be sacrificed. Basic forest. The only one his deck can find, as far as basics are concerned. And that's what you're talking about with that ability to kind of be locked by Wasteland. He doesn't have a lot of basics, so it actually kind of puts an importance on Mox Diamond, too, to help with his colored mana situation.
Absolutely.
Wasteland. Scavenging Ooze, take care of the loam. Chris says, no, sir. Cycle, the Tranquil Thicket. Dredge 3. Port is 1. Wooded Foothills is 2. Exploration is 3.
I appreciate Keating taking his shot there and get the loam out. It's a big deal.
Anderson will take a normal draw step now. Molten Vortex.
Is Keating dead?
Yeah.
How does this work?
Yeah, I'm not going to say no to that. Fire away. See you later, Scavenging Ooze. Well, if it wasn't hard before, it sure is hard now.
Yeah, I mean, against a grindy sort of control deck, just having unlimited shocks is a pretty good place to be.
Looks like Chris has got some interest in casting Gamble now. See what he wants to find. You see at least one Corrosion Grip in the deck. I'm not too surprised by that.
Yeah. I don't know if he brought in the full 4, but I would want at least some copies. Leyline in the Void's bad news.
I think I think there's enough nonsense in his deck that he can sideboard in the full 4. You know, like I don't think Tabernacle's good.
Agreed.
I don't like Glacial Chasm.
Yep.
And I don't really like Maze of Ith.
Yeah, I can see keeping in 1,
Yeah.
but I think 3 is stretching it.
So I think he can make enough room. I don't even know if, truthfully, how much do you even like Punishing Fire in the matchup? Don't think you need the full 4.
Yeah, you could definitely shave down on that too.
Yeah, so I think he can make enough room for all these grips and the Molten Vortex, and the Bajuka Bog. That's probably the 6 he wants.
I think it's very likely that Keating's first Green Sun Zenith goes and gets Scavenging Ooze, so I would want a little bit of Punishing Fire action in the deck, but yeah, certainly the full 4 seems excessive.
Here's Mana Bond. That's what Chris searched for. And he will activate it. So Bajuka Bog, Thespian Stage, and Grove. There goes Keating's Graveyard. What Chris wants to do now is he just wants to go completely nuts.
Yep.
That's what Mana Bond promotes, is he'll get back loam, he'll dredge it, he'll cycle Tranquil Thicket, he'll go completely nuts and dump all of his lands into play. Lands, you know, 5 years ago, it used to be a big-time Mana Bond deck. New cards promote new things, obviously, like Dark Depths and Thespian Stage, but this used to be a deck that played 4 Mana Bonds, 4 copies of Mulch, which is kind of laughable now if you think about it. And with Mana Bond and Life and Loam, you could go crazy.
And if he ever gets back lands that don't have a lot of value on the battlefield, they're just food for the Vortex.
Yep. So he's coming from 2 nice angles right now.
The only problem with this line of play, I think, from Anderson's side is if Keating goes land, cast Leyline into the Void, his route kind of goes down the toilet.
It's not great then.
Yeah. But he's got pretty much everything else covered.
It's neither the Reliquary and Maze of Ith, and now Chris is going to quickly untap. He'll dredge loam. 1 is a Verdant Catacombs, 2 is a Rashad and Port, 3 is a Punishing Fire. That Knight of the Reliquary is a 2/2.
And now I think it is Keating who is about to get locked.
I think so.
I think with all the Rashad and Ports here, access to unlimited shocks, no lands in the graveyard, so this Knight's going to be trivial to kill.
Yeah, Keating already knows it's going to die. The question is it Molten Vortex or Punishing Fire? That's it.
Chris with a Tranquil Thicket for good measure so he can get back to loam another time.
Yeah, this is where he gets to go completely nuts. This is where watching a deck based around lands is a little bit strange. He just has to make sure he sequences everything correctly. That's all. So loam will be dredged. Riftstone Portal among those cards now. in the graveyard. See what Chris wants to do now. He's going to cast Life in the Loam. Get back a Port. Get back a Grove. I think get back a Thicket.
No, I don't know if he wants to get back the Thicket just yet, because I think his plan here is to shock the Knight of the Reliquary down and then put a bunch of utility lands into play.
Okay. Yep, that'll take care of that. Thanks to the Molten Vortex.
I mean, it's possible that he you know, he can go ahead and shock Keating once and then put the 3 ports into play. I would probably just put all the lands down. The 1 point of damage here, because you have to give him 1 to tap the Grove for red mana.
Yeah, sure. And then you can just use the Grove to return the Punishing Fire.
This is a hard one to screw up. I'm gonna put
yeah.
Whatever, if Chris just shocks him a bunch of times, that's fine. And if he just puts all the lands on the table, that's fine too.
Time to go to porting. This is what playing against lands is like. And while Chris does do some porting in the upkeep here of Tom Keating, going to tap his Wasteland and his Forest, Tom will take a draw step. We have our first result, and it's Caleb Scherer with Storm, number 3 overall seed, number 17 on our Season 4 leaderboard, not wasting any time. Taking down Ryan Frainer, who is playing Grixis Delver. It was a good run for Ryan, but Caleb has been probably the second most dominant player in this tournament behind Chris.
Yeah, he's been near the top of the standings the whole time. I think X and 2 most of the way through. One of I think our 3rd seed in the tournament, so very good run.
For Ross Merriam, our number 5 overall seed in the tournament, he's also playing Storm. He's going to game number 3 against Max Williams. That's Storm versus Elves. And Ross has been on the other side of that before. I think of a match between him and Adam Prozac in the top 8 of Invitational, where many considered to be a laugher in Prozac's favor when he was playing Storm, but Merriam was able to actually beat him playing Elves thanks to the discard spells.
Post board, you have 6 discard spells and a pretty fast clock.
Yep. Chris going to do some loaming here. At this point, it's just, when's he going to find the 2020?
Our former colleague in the booth, Andrew Shrout, used to refer to this as garbage time.
Oh, is this what this is?
we are firmly in garbage time.
For all you fantasy sports fanatics out there.
We are playing out the stretch here. Chris can win a myriad of ways at this point. I think we're going to see Merit Lage here momentarily.
I have a feeling we will as well. Chris going to do some porting here. Tap that Wasteland.
I think I would Wasteland the Dark Depths, because then if you rip Caracas, you know, you get to play for a turn.
A turn, yeah. Another whole turn.
I mean, Keating seems committed to playing the game, so
I mean,
so whatever, go for it. You know?
You're in the elimination rounds. You might as well keep playing.
Right.
I think Tommy's trying to cover his Wasteland. I'm not quite sure what's happening right now. Looks like he might have a judge ruling here. He also might just be asking here, and we will get confirmation from our table spotter, perhaps the interaction between Dark Depths and Thespian Sage and how exactly this works, which wouldn't surprise me because it is a little bit confusing at times. Yeah, that's exactly what the question is, which is you activate Thespian Stage, and then you activate Thespian Stage copying Dark Depths. Dark Depths will see Thespian Stage. You have 2 legendary lands. You lose your Thespian Stage, which has no counters on it, and then has no counters, so it makes a 20/20.
Yeah.
That's all, which is a little bit confusing to see happen. But that's the breakdown. And Anderson is actually representing making a token because even though Dark Depths doesn't tap for mana, there is a Riftstone portal in the graveyard, which allows them to tap Depths for either a green or a white, the Taiga for a green and a red. That's 2. Activate Stage, copy your Dark Depths, make your 20/20. Yeah, so he's wondering, is there a time when I can activate Wasteland to break up the 2? And given how Chris is set up, the answer is no. So Wasteland is tapped. So what Tom might be wondering now is there anything that I can do to stop this? But Chris is just going to activate this in the upkeep. And Tom was wondering how exactly are you tapping mana with Dark Depths, and there's the Riftstone portal. So Station Depths are going to go to the graveyard. A 2020 Avatar is going to come to the battlefield. Yeah, and this was all on his upkeep. So now Chris says, do your worst, which is draw Caracas or a land for Liliana. And neither of those are there. So Chris Anderson's going to win game number 2 here over Tom Keating. Lands, punishing Abzan, going to game 3. That looked like easy mode for Chris.
And I think that game is a little bit more emblematic of how I would imagine the matchup playing out, where it's a lot of the same stuff going on, but Chris is way more committed to just getting a bunch of land synergies going and kind of ignoring the board, trying to lock someone out. Keating has got more of his deck space committed to answering creatures, answering the board in general, and that's not very effective against Anderson. I would rather be the better loam deck in this kind of matchup. Now, with that said, Keating has his copies of Leyline in the Void in the sideboard, and those can be very problematic for Chris because he doesn't have much of a backup plan other than hoping to draw the pieces to put Merit Lage into play.
Well, as these players do shuffle up here for game number 3, we're talking about game night here with Star City Games, where in the month of December, because the month of November is about to come to a close, you can get yourself the old reindeer.
Yep, November is winding down. This is the December kit. Every month we send out a new kit. You can go over to starcitygames.com/game night to find more information. Stores can run game night any day of the week, any format they want, just to get the players in the store for some fun and friendly magic. Too late to get signed up for December, but if you want to get signed up for January, head over to starcitygames.com/game night again for more information, or contact your Star City Games in-store play representative. Canadian store owners and players, we have changed the shipping rates, so now we are just charging U.S. domestic shipping rates to send these kits to Canada. So if you have not set up game night at your local store because of the shipping rates, again, head over to starcitygames.com/game night for more information, or contact your Star City Games in-store play representative.
Chris Anderson, Tom Keating getting ready here for game number 3. It'll be Keating on the play this go around. That's our 1 versus 8 matchup, as you can see on the screen. Our 3 versus 6, well, that one's done. Caleb Scherer got the job done there over Ryan Frainer. Caleb playing Storm, Frainer playing Grixis Delver. For Ross Merriam in his Storm deck, he's number 5 overall seed playing against Max Williams, who's number 4 playing Elves. They're in game number 3. And for Sam Raucus, number 7, and Christopher Stinson, number 2 in a Miracles Mirror match, well, unsurprisingly, they're in game number 1.
Can take a while.
It's been known to take a while.
It's been known to take a while.
Even though Sam Raucus is a very fast Miracles player, the Miracles Mirror can take a little while.
Also takes 2 to tango. I mean,
also true.
We move at the pace of the slowest player. I don't know exactly the speed of the of Stinson over there. Not claiming he's necessarily slow, just, you know, it's not as simple as one person's fast.
I'd like to see Reed Duke and Sam Raucus play Miracles Mirror. Might be over in 20 minutes.
Yep.
For Chris, on the draw, I think Mox Diamond Exploration pretty key.
Yes, and just draws involving Wastelands and Ports. He can prevent Keating from getting a whole lot going with his mana denial elements.
You're also looking for Crows and Grip too.
Keating doesn't play a lot at instant speed. He's mostly playing on his own main phase, and his deck is a lot of non-basic lands. So Ports and Wastelands, it's a good recipe here.
Both players are going to take a look at that opener. Again, remember, Keating will be on the play unsure as he was mulliganing to 5 that game if he was mulliganing for a Leyline or not. He does have 3 in his deck after sideboard.
I don't think it's a card I'm willing to go down to 5 cards for every single game here, but it's a card where I'm willing to throw away mediocre 7s.
Tom taking a long look at this one. You wonder if it's maybe a hand that has Leyline and some rubbish, or if it's a good hand without Leyline.
It's probably one of those 2, though.
Yeah. He's going back. Chris is going to keep. So we're going to find out if Keating can find something better to work with here on 6. It's been a good run for Tom for what it's worth. And it can continue to be a good run. I think people may forget he beat Dylan Donegan and Reed Duke over the course of this tournament.
Yep. 2 of our better names in the field for sure.
Yeah. So to be able to keep this train rolling, he's got to beat some high caliber players.
I briefly spoke to Keating. He kind of gave off a happy to be here vibe.
Yeah.
A little past his own expectations coming into the event, but going into game 3 here. His run not over.
And his play, at least for me, has impressed. You know, it seems as though he's pretty fluent in this deck. It's a weird deck.
Yes.
Especially with your fetch land requirements and what you're trying to do with your mana and how you want to set things up. But I thought he played pretty well against Reed. I think he played excellent against Dylan at the back end of yesterday.
Yeah, and the only critiques I've had about Keating's play thus far over the 3 matches I've watched him, some of the early sequencing of some of his lands, but the mana requirements are so stretched in different directions, I don't even necessarily know if the things I was critiquing are even mistakes. Just sequencing the early land drops is very hard.
He's going down to 5 again. Didn't work out for him last time. And what's tough about this deck that Tom's playing, especially with the Mox Diamonds, it's not a deck, at least to me, that mulligans very well.
Well, you have Loam and you have Knight of the Reliquary. Those are cards that can recoup cards. And you have Leyline. And Leyline is potentially worth a lot of cards out of Chris, depending on what it looks like. So 5 cards, never happy about it, but Keating does have some ways to recoup it or to find a card that's good enough to be worth several cards out of Anderson.
Well, our Miracle's Mirror, game 1's over.
Okay.
Took a little while, but Christopher Stitson, number 2 overall seed, up a game here over Sam Raucus. We'll be heading that way after this match is over, unless they finish all of a sudden, which seems unlikely.
Oh, you got the creatures, you know. Monastery Mentor, 2 tops, can end the game pretty fast. It's unlikely.
5 cards here for Tom. Jim Davis behind Tom, now a careful observer, looming into the feature match area. Got that Players Championship hoodie. He'll get another one of those December 15th and the 16th when we are at the Star City Game Center in Roanoke. Top card going to go to the bottom here for Keating from that Vancouver scry, and we are underway. No Leyline again here for Tom.
Yeah, Chris already breathing a sigh of relief. I think Keating, a 5-card hand with Leyline is still very capable of winning. 5 cards without Leyline, going to be tough.
Chris's start not very explosive, just a Taiga and he'll pass the turn back. Was expecting to see something like Mox Diamond or Exploration. Didn't find either one of those. Mox Diamond the draw step. He's going to play that now. Discard Dark Depths. I don't have a great look at his hand, but I have to imagine there's a Loam there. Yeah, I see it now.
There's a Loam. There appears to be a Crozan Grip as well.
Yep. Here's Crop Rotation. Curious to see what land he wants to search up.
I mean, Thespian Stage is attractive to me.
Yep.
Then he's representing the combo. I think there's some argument for getting a mana denial land, but you don't know exactly what Keating's up to just yet. He might just be hanging back on fetch lands for a while, and so Wasteland Import may not be great.
He might just have a bad hand, too. It is a mulligan to 5. It's pretty unclear. I mean, 2 Windswept Seas don't really tell you anything.
To me, it's either Wasteland or Thespian Stage on the surface are the most attractive lands to me.
He's thinking Riftstone Portal.
If he's getting Riftstone Portal, to me, this suggests he has a 2nd copy of Crop Rotation. He wants to Crop Rotate that in the graveyard.
All right.
Still got it. There we go.
Now Stage.
All right. And he wants to do this to be able to establish the kill as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's threatening it next turn because now his Dark Depths is going to tap for mana. He's got the 2 lands and 3 mana.
There's Loam. Gonna leave the portal down there.
And if Keating shows some sort of answer here, like Knight of the Reliquary or Caracas, Anderson can simply keep dredging Loam, find other things to do. He doesn't have to go for the kill now because he's got 2 angles of attack.
And what's also interesting about this is Chris had never played a land during all of that. There's a couple copies of Crop Rotation and Mox Diamond, so he can play Dark Depths and say, go ahead, it can tap for a green. and he can represent making it 20-20 on the next turn. Here's a mock Simon from Tom Keating. He'll discard a bad lands. Sacrifices 2 fetch lands. Going to fall down to 18. We'll see what lands he wants to search up, and then what his play is going to be. A forest and a bayou. He'll shuffle and present. We'll see a spell here in just a second. Anderson currently threatening a 20-20 on the next turn. Yep, there's Wasteland. That's his first land. Okay, Knight of the Reliquary.
Good turn here from Keating.
Yep. Wasteland going to take care of Thespian stage. Really good turn for Tom. Dredging alone. 1 is crop rotation, 2 is gamble, 3 is exploration. Anderson in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, without a way to have something, he doesn't have exploration, he doesn't have mana bonds. It's hard for him to power through Night plus Wasteland. I mean, Keating's going to be able to really stunt his development here for a while. Anderson's way to get out of this with Punishing Fire in hand is he just keeps dredging until he gets his Bojuka Bog, can take care of the graveyard, and then use a shock to take care of the 2/2 Knight.
We got our update. You had a feeling Ross Merriam would get the job done over Max Williams, and he does. Storm will take down the Elves 2-1. Merriam on to the semifinals. Going to play the winner of this match between Keating and Anderson. Anderson will dredge again. Mox. Verdant Catacombs. Thespian stage. Cast Loam again.
And I don't mind Anderson rinse and repeating these turns. It doesn't look like he's getting anywhere, but a couple things are happening. One, only so many Wastelands in Keating's deck.
Yep.
So assuming he doesn't find Loam, he's slowly wearing this down. The second is when he's dredging, he's getting several looks at Bojuka Bog. And if he finds the Bojuka Bog, then he gets the Knight off the table.
Another Wasteland. I don't tell you. There goes stage. In comes Knight for a relevant. Oh wow, never mind.
I like Keating trying to shut the door here. He's not trying to get another Wasteland. He's trying to end the game.
Yeah, Anderson's at 5.
And now he can't even Loam, Bojuka Bog, and Punishing Fire. He doesn't have enough mana. He might have to take a natural draw here.
I was thinking the same thing.
I think he might just have to draw Bojuka Bog. I think if he's able to draw Bojuka Bog, his position becomes great because he's got Grow plus Punishing Fire, takes care of the Dark Confidant. Keating's got no board, but he can't Loam anymore. At least this turn he can't Loam.
No, there's no Loam to be had. See what the draw is. It's a Loam.
That ain't it.
I think he might just be dead. Yeah, that's going to do it. Wow. Tom Keating is going to win this match here over Chris Anderson, 2-1. Punishing Abzan is going to take down lands in a bit of an upset here, and that's a tough loss for Anderson, given what he's trying to accomplish here to try to get to the Players' Championship. 10 points is great, and that's a step in the right direction, but that feels like an upset to me.